opportunity for professional growth. Prepare for battle.
Something tells me I won't have the luxury of collecting data here.
Capcom has been on a roll for the last few years, with 2023 being their biggest year in their entire history as a company. Their releases have been on point, with new entries into established franchises and remakes of their classic properties selling by the tens of millions. Capcom has been on a real hot streak. I would say that, if not for their streak being broken by one little release.
Dino Crisis! Give me the logo, goddammit, give it to me. What?
When you compare this game's reception to Capcom's other releases, it seems to have been almost completely ignored, which is a shame, because this game is awesome. On the surface, it may seem like your run-of-the-mill class-based shooter, but when you actually play the game, you'll see that it's far different from games like TF2 or Overwatch. Exoprimal is a class-based speedrunning team shooter, where the basic premise revolves around killing multiple waves of dinosaurs as quickly as possible, ending off in a team versus team challenge. This ending challenge is where teams can actually fight each other, but none of them are straight up team deathmatch. All of the ending missions have some sort of objective that needs to be completed, like pushing a payload or collecting a certain amount of an item. To some, this may be disappointing, but to me, it's the most unique thing about the game's structure. Exoprimal differs greatly from most shooters, because the PvE aspect before the final challenge is just as, if not more important to your success, and is where all the game's best qualities stem from. The game is all about discovering, refining, and perfecting your execution of each wave of dinosaurs to save as much time as possible, with the game providing you with tons of different scenarios to learn. There are 22 dinosaur types and 12 mission types that are mixed and matched across different environments. While not completely randomized, Capcom has put in dozens of these scenarios, which means there's enough variety while also giving the player the ability to learn and optimize each route. To combat these dinosaurs, we're given access to 10 different exosuits, each split into categories of offense, tank, and support. Each exosuit has its own abilities and strategies to employ, along with 8 different equipable rigs that give you an extra ability like a healing field or an extra jump. Each suit can also equip 3 out of dozens of different modules that all have their own unique effects. Everything from the different dinosaurs, to mission types, to your own character abilities has strategies to discover, and once you figure something out, it really pays off. Oh, here he comes. Average Joe.
Alright, froze. Holy shit! Holy shit!
Oh my god!
Oh, that's good.
He didn't even stand a chance!
That's actually really, really good.
Along with this, the game also has its fair share of great set pieces to marvel at, but it spreads them out enough so they don't lose their luster. These moments are also where you get to hear the game's killer soundtrack. The Dinosaur Swarm track that punctuates these moments is particularly of note. The combat itself feels amazing, combining top-notch animation, excellent sound design, and some beautiful visual effects to make everything feel powerful. Combining all these different systems together with such an extreme degree of polish means creating a multiplayer experience like no other. I have played all the betas for the game, so I pretty much knew what the multiplayer would be like. However, an aspect I wasn't expecting was the game's story mode. Now when I say story mode, I mean that kind of loosely, because the game has a very interesting way of presenting its campaign. A basic synopsis of the story is that you and your team, called the Hammerheads, crash land on a secret island controlled by a rogue AI called Leviathan. Leviathan sends you back in time to compete in what it calls war games, which is where you fight the dinosaurs. To progress through the story, you'll need to play multiplayer matches. Playing matches unlocks different pieces of the story, which you can view in your archive map. Most of these pieces are audio conversations between the different members of your crew. Getting enough of these pieces lets you progress further into the story, usually being capped off by a CGI cutscene. As you gain more and more of these pieces, you will slowly uncover the mysteries of the island you have crash landed on, as well as the story behind Leviathan. While it's not a super groundbreaking story, the characters are extremely charming, and slowly uncovering more pieces to the puzzle had me interested all the way through. Technically, the story is completely optional, but if you want to get different enemies and mission types, you will need to interact with the story map. Luckily, every cutscene can be skipped, so if you don't care, it shouldn't be too much of a hassle. The gameplay is fantastic, and the story is better than I would have expected. So why has this game received such a mixed reception? A very consistent thing you'll see, even across the game's positive reviews on Steam, is that the game's aggressive monetization is a major turnoff for a lot of players. Firstly, this game costs $60, which for a multiplayer-only game is a rather bold move. Very rarely do multiplayer games charge any money up front because the free-to-play format has just proven to be the most profitable. The last time I can remember this being successful was Overwatch in 2016, and even that went free to play eventually. I understand that this game does have a campaign of sorts, and is of AAA quality, but it's far from being a true single player experience. Now I do realize it's on Game Pass, so you can play it for way cheaper. But that still doesn't excuse this game cutting off such a large portion of potential players just to do this. In the short term, they may see a boom of players, especially on Xbox, but in the long term, they are killing their own game with this premium price tag. Now, as if that wasn't bad enough, the rest of the game is also plagued with even more. I mentioned that there are 10 playable exosuits, but technically you only start with 7. You unlock the other 3 by leveling up your account, which isn't necessarily bad on the face of it. In fact, I wouldn't have a problem with it at all if you could only get them by leveling up. What can't be excused is the fact that you can purchase these characters for an extra $15 or an extra $10 when you get the Digital Deluxe Edition, adding even more onto an already high-priced game. Along with that, of course, you have your obligatory Battle Pass, with the Premium Pass being another $10. This Battle Pass was all across the marketing for the game. While I can appreciate them for being transparent about it, this did not instill a lot of confidence in people who were interested in the game, as a lot of players are pretty sick of Battle Pass systems, let alone in a premium game. And it gets worse somehow. You can also pay $40 for Overdrive Kit 1, which gives you all the big cosmetics from the Battle Pass, which you can buy for $5 a piece, might I add, along with early access to the different suit variations that are coming for free in a later update. It's honestly astounding how Capcom has taken the potential of a new property and thoroughly ran it into the ground with such excessive monetization. I know a lot of people have let this slide because it's not pay to win, but I don't think that's a great excuse. When I pay $60 for a video game, the last thing I want is to have content gated away that I need to spend even more money on, whether that's characters or cosmetics or whatever. If Capcom had even an ounce of restraint in their approach, they could have fostered a loyal fan base with free content updates before even thinking about adding any forms of monetization. But they just had to front load all this stuff at launch to such a degree that most players have been completely turned off by it. In a way, this game shares many similarities with another game, Evolve. Both games have unique and interesting multiplayer gameplay that people really enjoy, and they both, at launch, along with costing $60, were released with astounding levels of over-monetization that turns off the wider gaming audience. We already saw how that ended up with Evolve, and I'm afraid to say, unless Capcom makes some drastic changes, they could fall to the same fate. At this point, it may already be too late. Its release has come and gone with very little fanfare, and even devoted players like me can't push aside its rather glaring flaws. Again, I must repeat that none of these flaws are with its gameplay and story. In a sea of copy and paste multiplayer experiences, Exoprimal provides something wholly unique, and despite its flaws, I would still absolutely recommend this game. Not at $60 though. Pick this game up on Game Pass for a month, get some friends, and have some fun. This game may not stick around for as long as I would like, so I would say try it out while you can.